Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. Shout out as always to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. We're coming to you late tonight. We have a it's hard to explain. Week 4 of the 2022 season. First of all, thank you for listening. If you're up listening live, I see a few people. If you're not, thank you. If you listen to it later, we're coming on right after the Lions 34-20 victory over the Packers at Lambeau Field on Thursday night. And it's uh it's good. It's good. It's tough to figure out how to come at this, right? Because if you listen to this podcast or watch this podcast, you know who I am, you know how I am, and as late as it is, midnight East, um, this is what I've been waiting for, right? This is the fourth podcast of the year. We do one after every game, and the request in the first three podcasts was the same each time. I'd like to see a complete game. I'd like to see a cleaner game. But more than anything, complementary football. And even tonight, there was a stretch in the third quarter. Well, the whole third quarter, where we were disinterested. And that happens when you're up 27-3. You can get bored. So I'm actually not even going to count that tonight because that's just human nature. They were the best team on the field from the moment the ball was kicked. Well, after Goff's interception, which is 100% Goff. And everybody knows I'm a Goff guy. I have no problem saying that was him. Jarrett had no problem saying that was him. But what we saw after that interception was simply one team was better, especially and most importantly up front on both sides of the football. Here's the thing that's most exciting to me right now as a Lions fan. I can do the thing and say we're 3-1. I can tell you we are 11-3 in our last 14 football games. I'm gonna say that again. We're 11-3 in our last 14 football games. An overtime loss to Seattle, where if they make one or two plays, that's a different game. Uh, 11-3 in the last 14 games suggests this is sustainable. Suggests this is legitimate. Those who want to say all those things I hate to hear are struggling right now because you cannot doubt what you saw tonight for a team that isn't completely healthy, still missing some players, still missing players we're going to get back. Um, but it was nice to get Decker back, and David Montgomery showed what he was all about. I think that um, this is a good football team, right? And it seems like I mean I think I got a couple of texts before like, hey, are you doing the podcast tonight or tomorrow? And my thing is I can't do it tomorrow because I'll have slept on this. The energy will be gone. I won't be at the same level. And that's the whole point of this podcast. There's 100 podcasts and they're all good for their own reasons. The whole point of mine, the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward, said it's the energy, right? It's the energy right after the game that you have. It's not like I'm gonna go to bed and be able to fall asleep. I'm amped up. We just went to Lambeau and not won a football game. They didn't go in Lambeau and eke out a win. They didn't just go into Lambeau and steal a win on national TV on Thursday night prime time. That's not what just happened. They dominated the Packers. They dominated the Packers. And I don't want to hear Aaron Rodgers stuff because they beat him last year and this is their fourth straight win over the Packers. I think they've won 8 of the last 13. The idea that the Packers have been better than the Lions reasonably over the last 5 years doesn't stand up to statistical data. I think, like I said, I think the Lions have won 8 of the last 13. Lambeau used to be a big deal, used to be a mystique. It's like a second home now. So so it's not a thing anymore. But this was the first complete. This is the best game they played this year, and they kind of took the third quarter off. And even with that said, this is still the best game because they were dominant. Every game's not going to be clean. I think my request for this perfectly clean game is not going to happen. But they were dominant tonight. I don't have much bad to say, and I'm cornbread and Kool-Aid. And anyway, there isn't much bad to say. I could do 45 minutes on Jared Goff's interception, except I'm not. Uh, eh, I am just thinking actually, uh, I'm most excited because I know they're not fully healthy right now. I know they don't have their full complement. What happens when JMO comes back? He gives them a dimension they don't have right now. As much as I love what Josh Reynolds does in this offense. He only makes 3 or 4 plays a game. But guess what? That's enough. Those are big plays. He made a really huge catch. And everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And I sent out a tweet this morning when I predicted the game. And I said it would be the cleanest game and the Lions would play complementary football. And that's what happened. I don't the two best units on the field were the Lions defensive line and the Lions offensive line, or vice versa. I don't know which order it goes in. But there's no doubt which units dominated this game. And it was the Lions up front. Interior pressure from Aleem and Kaminsky. Isaiah Buggs got an early sack. This game, and I'm still just thinking, what happens if we were to get fully healthy? What does it look like? And I'm looking ahead, and we play a rookie in 10 days. First, we get the long break to get a little healthy. Maybe we do get Mosley back, right? At some point later in the year, we might get Gardner Johnson back. We're going to get JMO back week 7. What happens when we start getting healthy, right? I don't um I don't know if this is the ceiling. That's why I'm happy. I'm really happy anytime you go to 3-1. It's such a good start, which we have not done in the previous 2 seasons. The rookies are getting better. Laporta is still playing well. Gibbs is still showing the flashes that we want to see. I don't think this is the best they can be, though. That's the thing that intrigues me is I think there's room for improvement even my quarterback, I think there's room for improvement, but they get this long stretch to get healthy, and then they get a rookie and Bryce Young at home. I don't generally look out too far ahead, but 4-1 seems logical. Then they go to Tampa. 5-1, it shouldn't be out of the question winning at Tampa because that's still Baker Mayfield. The last time I checked, Baker Mayfield tends to do Baker Mayfield stuff. So I hate doing it, but I can't help myself. 5-1 going to Baltimore feels like that's gonna be a big deal type of game in a few weeks. 5-1 Lions going into Baltimore. What if they go in there and win and go into the bye 6-1? Now, that's a lot to ask them to win 3 more straight, except no, they've won 11 of 14. So putting together 5 in a row or something, that's they can do that. They have done that. They can do it. So take a breath. Big win, not just because it's the Packers, not just because it's in the division, not just because it's on the road. All 3 of those are big deals. It's a big deal, not just because it was on a primetime game on Thursday night, but it's a big deal because they're starting to look like what those of us who ate a bunch of the cornbread and said they were going to go 12-5 in a preseason podcast about a month ago. This is what I thought I'd see. A team that got pressure on the other team's quarterback, a team that shut down the run. And don't look now. They might have the best run defense in the league. They just I don't know the exact number. I want to say 27 yards they gave up today after giving up I think 44 to Atlanta 4 days ago. This is a good football team. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I don't have to eat a bunch of cornbread and drink a bunch of Kool-Aid to tell you the Detroit Lions are a really good football team in 2023. And this is not even their full complement of players. They haven't played their best football. What if they haven't played their best football yet? But I'm looking forward to getting a little bit healthier for 10 days, getting a rookie on an average Carolina team at Ford Field a week from Sunday. Crowd's going to be back amped up like they were the last 2 weeks. Um, this 3-1 start sets them up to do something special. We, I mean, it's way too early to talk one seed and NFC Championship game, all that stuff, but it's not too early to think it. So I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to think it. So I'm going to recap what I saw as some of like the critical moments in the game, and then we're going to do a handful of maybe two or three quick Twitter questions or X. I gotta say X, don't I? Yeah, I'm not gonna say X. We're gonna do a few Twitter questions, and then we're gonna get out. We're now it's late. I'm tired. You're tired. Um, I think that you wanted to come out and have a good start, and Jared took that away from us immediately. But then they had a great bounce back drive, right? That drive was so important to come down and just punch them in the face and run it right into the end zone. That the actually the pass to Amara St. Brown. We were getting early interior pressure, and I think the field goal they got after the turnover was 3 plays, and then I think they went 3 and out 4 straight times, maybe. I don't think they got their first down until midway through the second quarter. And if you think about that, we're running the ball effectively and we're just dominant up front on the defensive line. I really like that reverse play they ran. I think that getting a team that's pursuing is really good. We had an opportunity to really put a nail in their coffin. We were up 24-3 and we got a holding penalty. I think that kind of killed that drive. But what was happening in the first half was you saw a team impose their will on another team in their house. They got their first down midway through the second quarter. That's important. And whatever Lean McNeil did, I said this last week as a joke. Now I really mean it. Whatever that diet is, that body shaping thing you did, it's working. Lee McNeil is a dominant interior defensive lineman in this league right now. He is. And so going into halftime, I think it was 24-3 at halftime. You had taken all the air out of the building. You had a bunch of Lions fans in there chanting, "Let's go Lions." Nothing they really were doing was working. And their coach came out and said, "I want to see us fight." And there was a defeated tone in his voice. It was angry, but it was he knew. There was his posture, his entire affect screamed, "We're just playing a team that's better." And this is new territory for me in the podcast era. This is season 5 of this podcast. This is new territory for me. So if right now the fact that it's late, the fact that you have to wait all day for night games, I hate night games. It takes forever. But this is new territory, right? This podcast has often been about draft choices and the GM, and I'll find any reason to talk about how great I think Brad Holmes is. I think you saw it tonight in the fact that Laporta contributed early. I think Branch continues to contribute. Gibbs makes big plays. I think that play in the third quarter, um, we gave up a sack. It was a coverage sack. But that drive could have put some more distance. And then that silly end of the quarter play with no time on the clock. I'm not sure what the refs were up to, but yeah, that's fine. We didn't really need it. Um, I think holding them to that field goal, that drive when they had the ball with an opportunity and they took time off the clock. Um, I mean, our field goal, sorry, when we got to 27. That was a big drive, took some key time off the clock. But the Lions had drives in the first half that were, I think, 7 plays, 8 plays, and 12 plays. The 12 play drive might have been that last drive in the second half. Yeah. So they had a couple of big drives, but I think that last one, the dagger one in the fourth quarter, 12 plays, took no, the last one was over 8 minutes. Those drives are really important, and it again speaks to the dominant one. The last one I think was 15 plays, 75 yards, almost 9 minutes. That fourth quarter drive, that is something that we're not familiar with seeing from the Lions, which is put the game away, just put it away. We let them hang around. We gave them a third quarter, and they tried to get back in it, but ultimately when you need to, and that is the difference when you have an offensive line as dominant as the Lions offensive line is. There's no question. There were some ebbs and flows in it, but from the start, you knew who the best team was. We all knew who the best team was on the field. There was never a time where you thought that Packer team is as good as the Lions team. There's a period where you go, okay, the Lions made a couple mistakes. Okay, the Lions let the Packers get back in it. You never once thought the Packers are better than the Lions. From midway through the first quarter, it was clear who the better team was. And and so just like I like to think about like the things that happened in the game, how it was feeling during the game while watching the game. It's one of the reasons I don't like to do the podcast like on Monday or Tuesday. I won't remember it. This is fresh. I remember the interior pressure the Lions were getting. I remember certain plays that seemed critical at the time. I think that we still have to do the part where we talk about certain guys, right? Not that we're doing segments or anything, but David Montgomery is a guy. If we were doing Mike's old segment called "Here's a Guy," so we first started the podcast, we have a segment called "Here's a Guy," and Mike always felt like, hey, there's a couple guys, right, that made an impact, and Aiden Hutchinson is a superstar already. He's a different kind of guy. He just even when he doesn't get there, you see on the play, oh my God, he's almost there. He almost gets there so often. And people don't understand what the stat quarterback pressures means, especially when you're playing young quarterbacks. Desmond Ritter last week, possibly Bryce Young next week, certainly Jordan Love tonight. You know what? That's not even right because we were kind of doing it to Mahomes and Geno as well. You were getting there. You're being disruptive. You're making them get off timing, maybe shorten their progressions. Pressure, I mean, sacks are great. Sacks are better than anything from a defensive line standpoint. But pressures and hurries are really important. And you're seeing that Aiden Hutchinson just causes problems no matter where they line him up. It was good to see Jerry Jacobs get two interceptions, and because they've been dragging him. I said it last week. I'm not here to drag Jerry Jacobs on Twitter. I will not do it. Enough other people were doing it, but it was good to see Jerry Jacobs bounce back. And I still don't think we're giving Cam Sutton enough love because he just does his job really, really well every week. Every week, you don't hear his name get called. You're not seeing guys running free in the field on his side of the ball. It's like Cam Sutton is just doing his job very, very well week in and week out. 4 straight weeks. I challenge you to tell me when you saw Cam Sutton get beat. I challenge you to tell me the pass interference call. I don't think Cam Sutton is a penalty through 4 games. I am horribly impressed with the performance of Cam Sutton, and I love knowing we have him under contract for 3 years. And again, I mentioned Montgomery at the top. This was what Dan Campbell teams want to be. They want to give a guy the ball 32 times. I mean, I go back and look. Who's the last Lion running back to get 32 carries in a football game? I would like to know. That's important because if you can give a guy the ball 32 times, if you can rush for 200 yards as a team, 211 yards as a team, you won the game. I'm almost certain you won the game. You probably dominated the game because you controlled the clock. And when you can give one guy the ball 32 times and he's gashing 6, 7 yards a carry, he gets into the end zone 3 times. Uh, that's how that's how Dan Campbell teams are going to win. That makes play action easier, better. And I got to be honest, Jared Goff is one of the best in the league at play action. So my guy Hutch was a guy. Jerry Jacobs with 2 picks was a guy. Cam Sutton's always a guy. I even like the resiliency of Jared Goff because after that play, he didn't make too many more mistakes in that football game. He really did. So this team and a guy called into the radio station earlier this week and said the Lions didn't have any alphas, right? He said he thought the Lions were going to lose because they didn't have any alphas. And I thought to myself, huh. And I actually called into the radio station, told the guys, I dare that dude to go up to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who would probably not be wearing a shirt, and tell him he's not an alpha. Go up to Cam Sutton if you want. Tell him he's not an alpha. Tell Hutch he's not an alpha. Tell David Montgomery tell Penei Sewell he's not an alpha. And largely I think the last point I made was it's not about individual alphas. It's about an alpha culture because the most alpha guy in the building is Dan Campbell, right? They have an alpha culture. They're a team of alphas. I saw Melanfanu make a hit and flex, like flex his guns. They're a team full of alphas. Brad Holmes is an alpha. Hell, Sheila's an alpha. What- this team is riddled with alphas. I'm not worried about they don't have a dog. They got a bunch of dogs. They got a bunch of really good football players first and foremost, but they got a dog in the GM's office and they might have a dog in the owner's box. Um, I'm not worried about an alpha culture with the Detroit Lions. I'm not even really sure I ever bought that, but I certainly don't buy it now. It is This is a really good football team. This is a really talented football team. This is a football team that will be able to play with anybody. I still challenge you. I challenge the team. Who's the team? San Francisco is a good football team. Let's go. Let's go. Right now, today. Let's go. If we get JMO back and get him incorporated, you let Laporta get better, let Brian Branch ankle feel okay and he gets better, let Jack Campbell get better and Jameer Gibbs get more into the offense. Because when JMO comes back, you're looking at JMO and Gibbs and Laporta and St. Brown and Josh Reynolds is still doing his thing. You can flip it to Khalif every now and then. All of a sudden, what we have weapons and you have an accurate, generally accurate, smart with the football, one of the best play action guys in the league in 16. I like our offense. Got to be honest. Put up a nice 34 burger today and it was dominant. It was a punch you in the face in the first half. Just keep punching you and there's nothing you can do. It was probably more body blows than anything. But I can't say enough about the dominance of the performance, the alpha-ness of the performance that I was impressed at how hard, just dominant we were. And we're probably going to get better. I'm not even hesitant to say it because I think we're going to get healthier, and healthier is going to help. But I'm excited. I don't think there's any reason not to be. I think the cornbread and Kool-Aid is appropriate, and this was a good win. This was a dominant win. It's a big time win. So all right, I'm gonna take a couple off Twitter, and we're gonna bust out a little early. Sometimes we keep them short when it's late. So, all right, Mike, give me a couple. What's the biggest reason for the dominant win tonight? I kind of went over it, right? It's line play. The offensive line, when you rush for 200 yards and your quarterback stays relatively clean. I think he got hit a few times, sacked twice, but for the most part, um, Goff was fine. But you rush for 200 yards. In an NFL game, you rush for 200 yards, your offensive line dominates. And I don't think anybody would disagree. That's the best unit on the team. When they're 100% healthy, they're a top 5 unit in the league. And you can dictate a game offensively when you can go on a 9-minute drive or drives of 5 and 6 minutes. And especially when you cash them in with touchdowns. A 12-play, 5-minute drive takes the heart out of the other team. It's just a gut punch to the other team because you ran 12 plays in a drive. That means you're just pounding them 3, 4, 5 yards at a time. You probably converted a couple of third downs. But they've cut the lead to, I don't know, 16 or whatever it is, if that's close, which in most games it's not. And then you take it and you run 15 plays and take 9 minutes off the clock. That's your line. That's your offensive line saying, you can't do anything about this. Right. And it's football is a game of will. And I think on the defensive side, it was the same way. It was you try and run if you want. I don't know what Aaron Jones did. I didn't bother looking at his stats because he wasn't a factor. When the game was out of reach, he might have picked up some garbage yards, and that's from a guy who has him in one of his fantasy football leagues. But do I care? No, I don't give a damn. The Lions dominated. So the both sides of the answer to your question is simple. The Lions dominated on both sides of the line. Simply put, the Lions had 211 yards rushing, and Green Bay had 27. That's your game. That's your game. I don't know how many sacks we had. Doesn't matter. Packers had two. The game is simply that. The Lions had 211 yards rushing, and the Packers had 27. So dominance on both sides of the line. is my easy and simple answer to that question. Next one. What would you say this game says? Says about the Lions? Says in general. What does this game say? It's a statement win. It's a statement win. It says the North runs through Allen Park, Michigan, which I've been saying for 2 years. It says um, we play a style of football that travels. We can beat you at our place. We can go to Kansas City and win. We can go to Green Bay and win. It says the way we play works everywhere. And when it gets cold, we can still rush for 211 yards. When it gets cold, we can still chase down your quarterback. It's the style of play. The statement to me is we're just going to grind. It goes back to the kneecap thing. This is how they play. It's hard playing the Lions. Man. It looks really, really tough. Even if you somehow beat them, it looks like it was a lot of work. And that was the thing they said from day one. That is how they built the team. I think it said, this is our division. There's nobody in this division that can come and take it. Not the 0-3 Vikings, not the 0-3 Bears, not even the fraudulent 2-1 Packers in their own building. We're going to have 5,000 Lions fans chanting, "Let's go Lions" in your building on primetime TV when there's no other game on and all football fans are watching it. We're going to come in your building in our white pajamas and we're going to punch you in the face all night. All night. It's a statement that says we can play with anyone, anywhere. And we're not even at our best yet. We're not healthy. We don't have our full complement of players. Tonight said to those people who like, I think the Lions might be a cute little story. And it's nope, nope. Well, you didn't believe Kansas City, and when they went the overtime, lost to Seattle, I was like, they might not be real. And then it's always just Atlanta last week. Okay, so all we do is you keep setting them up, we'll keep knocking them down. And Carolina's going to come in a week from Sunday, and they're going to play a healthier Lions team at home. And people are going to say, it's all just Carolina. And I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. I believe they're going to beat Carolina in 10 days. I do. And I think they're going to go on the road and beat Tampa a week after that. And I think a 5-1 Lions team is going to fly to Baltimore in 3 weeks. And it's going to be the biggest game on the schedule. It will probably be the biggest Lions game in 8 years. But remember, the Lions have won 11 of their last 14 games. That's not a fluke. That's not an accident. Those are called data points. That's what good football teams do. Good football teams can win 11 out of 14 because they're good. And I don't know what you think the unwinnable game on the schedule is. I've told you, I think Baltimore in 3 weeks is going to be a good game because Baltimore's good. They have an experienced mobile quarterback, which gives us problems. They've got weapons at the skill positions. I'm looking forward to that game. Now, history tells me, what are you doing, man? You got to look one game at a time. But I'm not that guy who's scarred and believes in curses and SO. I don't buy any of that. I know what I see. I see a football team that plays hard every single play until they're up 23 points. And then maybe I think they got a little bored in the third quarter. But when it came time to put the foot on the neck, and somewhere my friend Chris, not somewhere, Chris is in Japan right now. It might be middle of the day, so he should actually be listening. Where the heck are you? I'm going to need you to acknowledge yourself. We had a philosophy. When you get a team down, you put your foot on their throat and you stomp them out. The trophy room mentality. The trophy room mentality. This looks like a team ready to build a trophy room in Ford Field. That's what I see. I see a team that's tough, that's hard, that'll stand there. No trickery. I think they ran one reverse today. There were no fake punts. There was no gimmicks. There was no gadgets. They just lined up and dominated the Packers all night, both sides of the ball. The Lions' offensive line was the best unit on the field, followed very, very closely by the Lions' defensive line. And the secondary wasn't sloppy either. And David Montgomery rushed for 121 yards. I don't, this is a satisfying win. So what does this game say? The question was, what do you think this game says? We're just getting started. We're not healthy yet. We're not playing our best football yet. And we're 3-1, and nobody in our division is on our level. You can't possibly think the Bears are on our level. You can't possibly think the 0-3 Vikings are as good as we are. And I think we just told you what we thought of Green Bay. It's a big win for other people. For me, it doesn't matter. You can't run on us. Atlanta rushed for 44. They rushed for 27 tonight. We can stop the run and we can run. That means we can dictate the game. We can control the clock. We can hold you without a first down for a quarter and a half. It says a lot of stuff. Now, they're going to come back now and they're going to say, well, Green Bay really wasn't that good. Jordan Love didn't really. Okay. Okay. So we're not going to get any credit next week when we beat Carolina. We won't get any credit when we go to Tampa. And guess what? I don't care about credit. I love it. I want to stay under the radar. I want to roll into Baltimore at 5-1 and be the biggest game on the schedule. I want Baltimore to sleep on us. I want everybody to sleep on us. And we'll just keep knocking them out. You keep lining them up, we'll keep knocking them out. And you don't accidentally win 11 out of 14 games. You don't. That means you're winning on the road. That means you're winning at home. It means you're beating good teams. It means you're beating bad teams. It means you're beating everybody. You're winning a lot of games. Now, I'm not going to extrapolate that. I'm not going to extrapolate the 3-1 to 12-5, which I could. If I use the laws of statistical probability, I could. I'm not going to take the 11-4 in the last 14 and say, do the math that gets us 12-5, 13-4 type of record for the end of the year. I'm not going to go through the rest of the schedule and ask you to name the team on there they can't beat because there's nobody on there they can't beat. I'm not saying they're going to run the table. I'm saying on paper, they're as good or better than everybody. The game at Chargers used to look tough to me. It doesn't. The game at Baltimore should be a good game. The Dallas game used to look daunting to me. It doesn't. But even if you drop Baltimore and Dallas, where are the other losses on this schedule? I'm sorry. I see us winning both Chicago games, both Minnesota. I think we're going to run the division. This was the toughest division game we just finished off. They're going to have a down day. There's going to be some losses. I'm not sitting there, oh, they're nope. They still got to go out and play. But the question was, what do you say this game says? And my answer is the same. It says we're a good football team. We're not a fluke. We're real. And if you want some, come get some. That's what I think. I think they win John Cena tonight, and they told the entire league, if you want some, come get some. So last one, Mike. What narrative did tonight's game kill? Oh, okay, I got you. No, SOL guy is still going to be out there, so it won't kill that one. There are people who just need to see it. They're scarred fans of this team for 50 years, 40 years, 20 years, or just knuckleheads who like to say dumb stuff. I know the narrative. There is a narrative out there that we made a mistake letting Jamal Williams go. That somehow Montgomery can't duplicate Jamal's performance from last year. That was a mistake. So Montgomery helped us answer that tonight, right? Jamal had 17 touchdowns last year. I want to say Montgomery with the three tonight might have five, 4 or 5. That's not even the point because touchdowns is one metric. It's not the only metric. It's not even the best metric to measure the effectiveness. I think the metric is that David Montgomery had 32 carries. I'm going to go and do the research and see when was the last time a Lions running back had 32 carries. That is so important. That's so critical because that means you are dominating the game up front. I mean, there were other people who carried the ball. Gibbs had carries. But but if David Montgomery can rush the ball 32 times, that's equally as important, maybe more important than the 121 yards. Not as important as the 3 touchdowns because the 3 touchdowns are the reason the Jamal lovers even created this narrative that we shouldn't have let Jamal go and Montgomery was a mistake. Brad Holmes said we think we upgraded our running back room. And Gibbs hasn't even scratched the surface yet. While Swift is doing great in Philadelphia, which good for him. Good for him until he gets hurt. And if he doesn't get hurt, that's great. They got lucky. We never had a problem with DeAndre Swift on the field. We had a problem when DeAndre Swift wasn't on the field. So the narrative I think that should have been crushed tonight is that somehow signing David Montgomery and letting Jamal Williams go to New Orleans was a mistake. I think it is clear that it was not a mistake. I don't see any reason why David Montgomery can't duplicate what Jamal did last year. More likely exceed it in yards, in touchdowns, and in what we saw that last drive, right? When it was time to put your foot on their neck and extinguish their thoughts of possibly getting back into the game. That was David Montgomery in the offensive line. Because we got bored. We were slapping them around like you play with your little nephew or whatever. We're slapping them around and we got bored. We got bored in the third quarter, like, okay, whatever. And then they scored and their crowd thought, okay, all right, we're within two touchdowns. and 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 Ben Johnson and David Montgomery and the five dudes up front said, yeah, okay, let's just handle this. So forget about that narrative. That narrative's done. Now, what does it look like next? Here's the new philosophy. Here's the thing we have to do now. Every single game now is important. Not that it wasn't before, but it's important in a different way because we used to look at games and say, what will it take for the Lions to win? And the answer would often be, we will need the other team to make mistakes. We will need luck. We, no. If I look at the schedule, and part of me wants to pull it up right here, right now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait a couple weeks. I'm going to wait a couple weeks before I jump down that rabbit hole. But I know the schedule, so I don't really need to look it up. I can tell you that Dallas, the LA Chargers, Baltimore are the games remaining on the schedule that cause me the most heartache. I want to say I had them losing at Kansas City. I think I had them losing tonight, and I had them losing at the Chargers, at Baltimore, and it might be at Dallas. I think all my losses were road losses. No, there was one home loss. I don't remember, but I initially had them at 11-6. Once they beat Kansas City, I moved it to 12-5. Here's the thing: just go take care of business, and that's the kind of team I see. I won't dwell on this too long. They're a team that just handles their business. So keep handling your business. Go play games like you played tonight. Make the other team, and there aren't that many great quarterbacks in the league. There's like somebody had the narrative of, I think it was Ryan Fitzpatrick. The guys that they've rattled were young guys. He just forgot we beat Patrick Mahomes in week one. Said it was Desmond Ritter and Jordan Love. Okay, so they got Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield in the next two. If his logic stands, great. We should get those wins. If we're 5-1 going into Baltimore, I'm thrilled. I don't even care what happens in Baltimore. Now, I'm not saying that like the old me, talking about an old Lions team, which is a 5-1 Lions team going to Baltimore. Just like, oh, they can lose that one. No, to hell with that. No, go win that. Go win them all. Now you're not going to win them all, right? Injuries are a thing, but honestly, I want to wrap up with this. This team is 3-1, and one of the worst things we had thought about was the last 2 years they got off to really bad starts. They dug holes. Like they were a playoff. By the end of the year, they were one of the best 7 or 8 teams in the league when they finished 8-2. But they dug a hole in the beginning of the year that they couldn't climb out of. What if they get better like they did, right? And they probably will. Um, Getting off to this start is very helpful. Getting off to this start has put the rest of the league on notice. I think that they know who they are. We know who they are, and and I think they're only going to get better. I think they're going to get better, and this could be special. This could be special. So it's late. Thanks, Mr. Moten. I saw you, bro. Thanks for everybody's listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We're gonna have a good weekend because we already got our dub in place, and we'll I might do something early next week, just for the fun of it, maybe Tuesday, and then we will get back together for Carolina in about 10 days. So everybody, have a great day. Big shout to the Lions fans that went to Green Bay, and that was amazing. Hearing "Let's Go Lions" chats at Lambeau Field, there aren't very many things better than that as a sports fan. So everybody have a good one, and we'll see you soon.